There's a special kind of dictator, you know the type. The one who not only wants to rule your country with an iron fist, but also wants you to clap while he's doing it. The kind who jails your king, rewrites your national anthem with his name in every verse, and then forces said king to present him a ceremonial yam like he's some divine harvest god. Sounds absurd, right? Well, welcome to the wonderfully chaotic world of one such man, a president who believes history should be measured as before him and after him. But before we get to that ridiculous ego trip, let's rewind and talk about how we got here. Our story begins under a heavy, gloomy cloud. The air is thick with tension. The people of the land called Isma are preparing for a big national celebration, the launch of a new 5-year development plan, but not everyone is celebrating. Their spiritual leader, King Danlola, is sitting in jail under something called preventive detention. In case you're wondering, that's just political talk for I'm scared of you, so I'll lock you up before you can even sneeze. The man behind this bold move? The president himself, a self-important visionary who's convinced that tradition should bend at the knee before progress. And by progress, of course, he means himself. To prove this, he's insisting that King Danlola attend the upcoming Harvest Festival and personally hand him the new yam, a deeply symbolic ritual that usually places the king at the center of power. It's a clear message, I'm the boss now, old man. But there's a problem. The people still love their king. His supporters are out there defying the state, singing protest songs, and even mocking the national anthem. And that, my friend, is enough to send any paranoid dictator reaching for his handcuffs. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, a group called the Reformed AWERIS fraternity is huddled in deep discussion. These are the president's intellectual cheerleaders, or at least they like to think so. They're trying to craft a new image for the regime, one that screams progress, harmony, and modernity. But their main focus? Figuring out how to get King Danlola to publicly kneel, metaphorically of course, by handing over that yam. One of the president's right-hand men, simply called secretary, spells it out clearly. All we want is for the king to perform all his spiritual functions for the president. Translation: make the king bless the dictator. The AWERIS, however, are not entirely confident. A mysterious bomb has gone off in the city. No one's claimed responsibility, and the air is buzzing with rumors of a coup. The state responds by promising a scientific exorcism to rid the land of political criminals. But really, all they're doing is throwing more people into detention and fanning the flames of unrest. Elsewhere, we meet Segi, a strong-willed woman known for her fiery personality and her fondness for a drink or two, and Daoudu, a hard-working farmer. Daoudu's story is particularly interesting. He started his own farming collective without joining the government's cooperative system, something the regime saw as a threat. But guess what? His independent approach ended up boosting the national economy, proving that ordinary people can succeed without government micromanagement. This little subplot is important. It's a slap in the face to the president's narrative that only his leadership can bring prosperity. Back at the seat of power, the AWERIS continue their so-called strategic planning, which, let's be honest, mostly involves complaining about their empty stomachs. Their obsession with food becomes, well, the perfect metaphor for their greed. They talk a whole lot about harmony, but what they really want is more money, more power, and, of course, more yam. Corruption seeps through every corner of the government. The secretary is out here taking bribes from detainees. Officials scheme to lure Danlola into submission with these false promises of release, only to have him shot afterward. It's a chilling reminder, folks, that human life means nothing in this new order. Meanwhile, the president's idea of progress? It involves replacing sacred traditions with something he calls enlightened ritualism, which is basically just state-sponsored ceremonies that put him at the center of everything. It's tradition without spirit, culture without soul. As the festival approaches, the president retreats to meditate, or at least that's what he claims. In reality, he's planning a PR stunt of epic proportions. He goes so far as to declare himself the spirit of the harvest, and even suggests that history should now be divided into before him and after him. Yes, you heard that right. He wants to rewrite the calendar around his presidency. Meanwhile, the regime is planning to execute 5 political prisoners, but the president wants to grant them a last-minute pardon just minutes before their deaths. Why? Because nothing says merciful leader like saving lives you were about to take in the first place. But there's a twist. The prisoners kill themselves before the pardon can even be announced. The regime hopes that the shock of this tragedy will break King Danlola's spirit. As chaos brews, we learn of another escape. This time, it's Segi's father, a political prisoner who's managed to flee. This blunder weakens the secretary's leverage over the king. Meanwhile, Daoudu is chosen to dress as the spirit of the harvest for a defiant ceremony organized by the people. Segi urges him to preach life and love, but Daoudu's speech is full of fire. He calls the president and his cronies inventors of agonies and farmers of terror. Despite everything, Daoudu admits something heartbreaking. Kongi was a great man, and I loved him. It's a powerful line, showing how dictators often begin with noble ideals before losing their souls to power. The president, furious about the escaped prisoner, cancels the planned pardon. The executions will go on. Finally, the day of the festival arrives. King Danlola is released from detention, but, he remains absolutely defiant. He wants to attend the ceremony dressed in royal splendor, not as some humiliated subject. He actually mocks the president's spy network, calls it narrow and limited, and then, he claims his own intelligence sources include the living, the dead, and even the unborn. The tension, it really reaches its peak. Traditional praise singers warn against pounding the king's yam in a small mortar, which is just a poetic way of saying, don't underestimate the monarchy. Sarumi, who's another royal ally, goes so far as to call the king a god and compares the president to Satan. The people chant. The music rises. Danlola flat out refuses to hand over the yam, citing a conveniently sprained back. It's not just defiance, it's a direct challenge. Meanwhile, the cult of personality surrounding the president grows, honestly, just ridiculous. Everything from bus stations to universities is being named after him. The new national anthem praises him as father, mother, savior, redeemer, a man for whom people should live or die. The absurdity at this point is just complete.
You sit on a throne of lies.
But behind the scenes, things are totally falling apart. The secretary, now disgraced and afraid, he's planning his own escape into exile, right alongside King Danlola. Corruption is already fading in his absence, which is a sure sign that the regime's power is crumbling. As the anthem blares and royal drums beat, Danlola walks confidently into exile. He hasn't reclaimed power, not yet, but the people's resistance is alive. The fight against tyranny has begun. And then, the final chilling image. A human head, presented in a copper salver, the ultimate indictment of the regime's brutality. The president, who wanted a yam, receives a gruesome harvest instead. The play I've been talking about is Kongi's Harvest by Wole Soyinka, a searing political satire that, turns the pomp and pageantry of dictatorship into biting, unforgettable drama. What I love about this play is how Soyinka exposes dictatorship not through dry political theory, but through absurdity. The image of a president demanding a yam from a jailed king is both hilarious and, honestly, kind of horrifying. It's a metaphor for the way authoritarian regimes strip tradition of its meaning and bend it to serve their ego. Kongi's obsession with image, from rewriting the calendar to naming universities after himself, isn't just vanity. It's a tactic. Dictators thrive on spectacle. They rewrite culture, religion, and history until everything points back to them. But Soyinka shows how hollow that power really is. In the end, Kongi doesn't receive the submission he craves. He receives a human head, a symbol of the blood and resistance that define his rule. The clash between Kongi and Danlola is also symbolic. It's not just a political struggle, it's a battle between tradition and modernity, spiritual authority and state power, old values and new ideologies. But Soyinka refuses to romanticize either side. The monarchy is flawed, the people are divided, and even the resistance is complicated. And then there's Segi and Daoudu, characters who remind us that real change comes not from thrones or offices, but from the people. Daoudu's independent farming collective is a quiet rebellion against the state's suffocating control. Segi's defiance, despite personal tragedy, embodies the spirit of resistance. Wole Soyinka, born in 1934, is one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures, a playwright, poet, essayist, and the first African to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986. Much of his work, including this play, explores the abuse of power, the struggle for justice, and the collision between tradition and modernity. Soyinka himself was imprisoned for his political activism during Nigeria's civil war, and his first-hand experience with authoritarianism infuses his writing with authenticity and urgency. Kongi's Harvest is more than just a political play. It's a warning, a dark comedy about how easily power corrupts, how quickly liberation can turn into tyranny, and how even the mightiest dictator can't silence the drumbeat of resistance forever. In the end, Kongi might control the anthem, the yam, and even the calendar, but he can't control the human spirit. And as long as that spirit endures, in the songs of the people, in the courage of the farmers, in the defiance of a dethroned king, tyranny will always be on borrowed time. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of Africa's most powerful political satires, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into classic literature, and let me know in the comments, do you think Kongi's dictatorship mirrors any leaders we know today? Because, let's be honest, some harvests look suspiciously familiar. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.